my microphone's all, oh, maybe it is. Oh, hello. We're glad you guys are here. We would like to, before we call our meeting to order, we would like to invite you to stand and join us in accordance with Governing Board Policy BDDH. We would invite you to stand for a moment of silence and then remain standing as we call the meeting to order. Thank you so much. I'd like to call our meeting to order, and we will be led in the Pledge of Allegiance by Mr. Scott Thompson, after which we will have the national anthem sung by the Westwood Choir.
Follow me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
Thank you. I was thinking that would be the way I could join the choir, because they could mute my microphone while I was singing. I may have to get on a virtual choir. That would be just my speed. We have some things, let's see. We would like to go over our governing board procedures with you. I understand we are having a problem with our live stream. Mrs. Hollins has shown us that on every one of our pages we have a notice to our public that we are not currently able to live stream. They're working on it. If it becomes available, we'll start live streaming, but it will be recorded and within 24 hours be posted in that same manner. Any other update for us? That's good? Okay. Welcome and thank you for joining us at our modified in-person governing board meeting. In accordance with our district health and safety regulations, all individuals in attendance are required to wear a face covering for the duration of the meeting. The room is arranged to maximize the number of public attendees while following public safety guidelines, and some members of district leadership team are joining us via WebEx video conference. As has been our longtime practice, this meeting is not being live streamed currently, but normally would be, but will be able to be accessed on our mpsaz.org/live. A recording will be available within 24 hours at the conclusion of this meeting. I kind of probably didn't say that right, but you know what I mean. Viewers may select their preferred language for subtitles on the recording. Individuals with disabilities who need accommodations to participate in governing board meetings or individuals requesting language interpretation should contact Martha Head, assistant to the governing board, as far in advance as possible at 480-724-7242 472-0201 or mehead@mpsaz.org. For those of you joining us in person, if you would like to address the board on an agenda item, please submit a request to address the board located in the lobby. Per Governing Board Policy BDDH, individual speaking time may be adjusted to maximize the number of participants. Community members who would like to contact the Governing Board may do so through email or phone, and we encourage you to contact us prior to our meeting so we have the opportunity to consider your input. Our contact information may be found at mpsaz.org/govboard. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are thankful to have you here. We have had meetings with so few people in attendance. It's nice to see people out there. We have, the next on our agenda would be a review of agenda items, and this is a point where we look and see if there's anything that any board member wants to make an adjustment on, something they want to pull from consent. Anyone have any issues that they want to address? Okay, then we're ready to go to item F, which is a review of our governing board calendar. Dr. Forlis.
Thank you very much, Madam President. I will just walk us through, how about we just go through April and take a snapshot of what is coming up on the governing board's calendar. March 26th, Dr. O'Reilly will be attending the ASBA new board member orientation. That is part 2 of that training. On March 30th will be our next governing board meeting, and we've got an adjustment that we need to make in our timing here. Typically, our study sessions begin at 5 o'clock, but we know that there's going to be a lengthy conversation related to the English language arts adoption process. We are going to start that study session at 4 o'clock, so we will make the adjustment on all of our communication. At 6:30 that evening on March 30th, we will begin our regular governing board meeting. On April 2nd, we have April break, so it's important to know that schools and district offices will be closed. And then April 8th through the 10th, board member Sears will be attending the National School Board Association. That's a virtual conference for educational leaders. On April 13th at 6:30 is a regularly scheduled governing board meeting. And then April 21st through the 23rd is the Arizona School Board Association Equity Event. There is a registration fee, and if anybody is interested in attending, please let Martha Head know by April 9th. And that concludes our calendar of events for the month. Oh, I guess we have more. April 27th, 6:30 is our governing board meeting, and that concludes all of the events that take us through the month of April.
That it is already almost April. Thank you for that very much. And Mrs. Sears, we'll look forward to, and Dr. O'Reilly, a little report on anything you think our board needs to know from the conferences you're attending. That would be wonderful. Thank you. We are at item 4, which is our consent agenda items, and we know that all items listed will be considered as a group and approved with one motion, and there will not be separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered as a separate item. I did not see any requests to address the board in our online. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Hutchinson, do I have a second?
President, I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Sears. Mrs. Head will call for our vote. It passed. The consent agenda item has been approved with a 5-0 vote in the affirmative. We are down to our action items, which is action item A is the certificated and classified personnel requests, including an addendum. Dr. Driscoll, tell us about it.
I want to point your attention to the addendum. In the addendum, it says that Deb Lynch is resigning, and that should be retiring. And so I checked and made sure I looked at the letter. It says she's retiring, she's not resigning, so I wanted to make sure I put that on record, and we'll make sure that it's reflected in the next board meeting that change is happening. I know our staff is like, oh, no, she's retiring, so I wanted to make sure I put that. out there.
Thank you for clarifying that for us.
With that, Madam President, members of the board, we're asking for your approval this evening of the certificated and personnel requests, including the addendum.
Thank you. We're glad that Mrs. Lynch doesn't feel like she's just done with us. Do I have a motion to approve those?
I move we approve the personnel request.
Thank
And-
you. Thank you, Dr. O'Reilly. A second. I second. Thank you, Mrs. Ellingson. Is there any discussion on that action item? Okay, then Mrs. Head will call for our vote. And you can tell all those people we approved their. I know I had a friend who was a teacher who is resigning, and I screenshotted the last night and said, I'm not going to approve your item, but you can let everyone know we did. Item B is a purchasing contract award, and I need a motion to approve. Do I have somebody who's going to talk about item B?
I was going to
Ah.
talk about, Madam President, I would like to just do a little quick introduction related to who, with your approval of the certificated and classified personnel request, just to introduce one of our new leaders to Mesa Public Schools. Is
Well,
here
we
with us
should have
this evening.
gone back to that. Back up. We're on 5A. Good thing this isn't
5A.
live streamed. We can just edit that. No, just-
This is the do-over part, right?
Yep.
So, Madam President, members of the board, with your approval of the personnel request this evening, you approved the appointment of a new administrator to Mesa Public Schools. Chris Rossini has just been hired as our Director of Classified Personnel. Tell you a little bit about Chris. Chris brings over 20 years of experience in human resources administration in both the private sector and the K-12 educational system. He earned his bachelor's degree in business management and a master's degree in organizational management from the University of Phoenix. We'd like to congratulate Chris on his appointment as the next Director of Classified Personnel. So Chris, if you'd like to come to the podium and say a few words and get to know our governing board.
Thank you, Dr. Forlis. Madam President, members of the board, cabinet. I'm very excited to be joining the Mesa Public Schools team. I'm very excited to make a difference to the classified staff and especially make a difference to the students of Mesa Public Schools who will go on to do great things not only in our community but around the world, I'm sure. So it's a great privilege again and honor to be here tonight and accept this. And I'm excited to get started and get to know everybody here. So thank you. So, you guys have a good night.
Thank you very much, Chris. We welcome you to the team.
We
Thank
want you to know that we want to take good care of our classified staff, so we're glad you're here to help do that. Thank you. And
Excellent.
do I see Mr. Wing in the background with
Yes.
you? Good. You're good friends. I'm sure you'll become good friends as you work together to help serve.
Mr. Wing is here building his team, so
Yep. And we'll make sure Dr. Driscoll tells you all the secrets you need to know. All right. Thank you. I'm sorry that I skipped that. All right, now we're going to go to purchasing. And I probably should ask, you talked to us about it before or after the motion?
I think we can go ahead and probably do the first and the second, then I can talk to it.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion for item 5B, the contract award of Project 1?
I move we approve the contract award for Project 1.
Thank you, Mrs. Hutchinson. Do I have a second?
A second.
Thank you, Dr. O'Reilly. Now let's learn a little more about it before we vote.
Thank you, Madam President. So this evening, we wanted to start with a thank you to our community. These projects are only possible because of the support that our voters gave us in 2018 when they supported a $300 million bond project, of which this will be one of those projects. So we always want to acknowledge the great support we have from our community. And then I want to make sure that if anybody's watching our math, they understand the project. So we started the conversation with a community conversation around, really driven by an initial report from our master planning consultants saying our high schools were deficient. They were lacking in space and they needed to be addressed. And from that was born two projects, Mesa High and Mountain View. And we started the projects with a relative idea of about a $30 million construction budget. People often ask me, well, how did you get to $30 million? Well, the consultants came up with about $90 million in work that needed to be done at these campuses. So this is 1/3. It's that simple, not anything more special than that. What we've discovered as we've entered into both of these projects, and there'll be a similar narrative when we talk about Mesa here in a few weeks, but for Mountain View, we worked with the committee and said, look, there's about $5 million in costs for the contractor and the architect and all that kind of stuff, but the actual building cost is going to be around $30 million. So a total project cost of $35 million, construction costs about 30. But we've learned that we've got a few opportunities here that we want to take advantage of. And so there's two things this evening that are kind of outside of the scope that was really discussed with the community and really came up in light of what the community thought was best for that campus. So the projects that you're approving this evening are to start the renovation of the major academic wing, the upstairs. You guys saw that presentation at the last board meeting. In doing so, we also have to address the HVAC equipment on that building. Now, we could go about just replacing the rooftop units that are on there, but we would lose the opportunity to become more energy efficient and to modernize the way we address the air quality of our classrooms. So this evening's proposal has an upgraded water-cooled chiller, which I would argue for the size of the building, and you guys know those academic buildings are very, very large. This is the appropriate equipment to do that. It's also going to help us with the Performing Arts Edition, which is not part of this conversation tonight, but will be coming to you in Project 2. And so this central plant will cool both the academic building and the new Performing Arts Center, the new addition to the Performing Arts Center. So we get one system dealing with two buildings, so there's some efficiency there. And these water-chilled systems are about 22% more efficient than the rooftop units were. So we're going to see a large reduction in our electric bill. And then finally, with that, we're also installing what is known as needlepoint bipolar ionization. I know that's a really big word for something that we haven't really talked a lot about, but you've actually seen some of this going in our early projects last summer when we updated 311 rooftop units or HVAC units that are on our roofs with this system. And what does needlepoint bipolar ionization do? It basically improves the air quality of the classroom, and it allows us to particularly address that in the summertime, because in 2018, the new standards for fresh air in the buildings have increased. And when it's 110 out, it is difficult for our systems to keep up and keep that room cool. So this ionization system cleans the air in a way that allows us to bring in a little less fresh air when it's really hot. But in the entirety of the year, it's constantly addressing the air quality of the room. One of the things that it does is it addresses molds, bacteria, and viruses that are present in the air. And we've talked in the past about the aerosolization of our cleaning process, which is all an attempt to get viruses like COVID or anything else that might be in the air out of the air so that we're not breathing it in. In a very simple terms, these bipolar ionization systems do the same thing for the classroom. They help clean the air, especially when we can't, and understand that some people might say, well, let's put in windows. Well, a lot of our schools weren't built with windows, and we're not going to be able to get windows in them tomorrow, and then it's 110 out. So this is in our minds, the next best solution to better air quality in our classrooms. It was something we actually were working on prior to COVID. So these were going in, these went in last summer because we were planning to put these in because they're better systems, cleaner air, better conditions for our classroom. They have a side effect that I don't want to put out there as scientific or say that we have COVID-killing systems. I just want to say that it addresses bacteria and viruses in the air and helps clean that air and make it better and more breathable for our teachers, for our students, for everybody. And really all of this is focused on air quality, right? That's what we're trying to achieve, is better air quality for the kids and for the adults in our classrooms. So we're gonna upgrade to a central plant, water chilled, for those 2 buildings, which is about a $2.6 million additional cost, over just replacing the rooftop units, one of which was gonna get done no matter what. And then we've also run into the idea that as we looked at the work we were doing, we came to realize that there's about 20 classrooms on that upper level that originally weren't discussed or contemplated as being addressed. And if you go in those classrooms today, what you're going to find is there's kind of this mishmash of operable walls and brick walls and not so much a wall. And what you hear is the teacher talking next to you. It's just not an appropriate classroom space. We need to improve that. And there's not enough electrical for all the technology and everything else in these classrooms. So the bottom line is we're in there. This is the time and the place to go in and clean out that entire level and get those classrooms redone the right way. So there's additional costs that we've looked at taking advantage of based on the scope that was originally identified by the community. And so that's in this project as well, but it's not in that 30 million. So I anticipate the final price tag to be probably closer to 40 with all of these things being in. But understand that we probably would have been on that campus doing some kind of HVAC upgrade, just like we've been doing throughout the district and will continue to do throughout the district. So that just wasn't really something that we felt the committee and the folks should have to deal with, trying to put that in the box too, because there's a lot that they want to do on this campus. So I wanted to get that explanation out both to you and to the community and make sure everybody understands that if you're doing the math and you're saying, well, we're about to spend 19 million, not a whole lot left for the second phase. Well, it's really more about 15 million, and we still have another 15 million to go of that 30 that we kind of arbitrarily came up with to fit the box in. Mesa High, we've already talked a little bit in the past, is headed in the same direction. There's a few parts of their project that just weren't going to quite fit into the 30 million box. We just add $1 million or $2 million, we get everything we want, as opposed to trying to strip away. And we want to take advantage of the fact there's contractors and work being done on these campuses and make sure that we get the best bang for our buck. So that's all part of this conversation too. I want to acknowledge in the audience, we have our team, we have Chase Building, we have our architects, SPS Plus and Nations Group, who's helping manage the project. So if you have any detailed questions, they're here to back me up, but I want to acknowledge that they've come out this evening to support and answer any questions you might have. But that's basically what we're about to vote on this evening. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Have anything they need more clarification of? So this 19 million is not the 10 millions for more classroom and the 2 million for the chiller.
This 19 million does include the chiller and the additional classrooms. It's about 4 million more, just short of 5 million more because of those things.
Okay, instead of being half, maybe like a 15 million, it's now a 19, is that
Yeah.
what
yeah.
okay.
So it is still bond money. The other question I've been asked quite frequently by people lately, and I'll bring up this point, is just that what about the ESSER dollars? So I better hit that one. Absolutely, this is ESSER type eligible. Ventilation and air quality in the classrooms is clearly identified as something ESSER could be about. What I would say is the struggle with that today is the timing of all of it. ESSER 2 goes through fiscal 23, and ESSER 3, which was just approved, and we don't know exactly the amount yet, but it's going to be quite large, will go through 24. So we got about 2 to 3 years to spend that money, and there's a lot of demands on it. And we want to make sure that we're focused on the student improvement and readdressing these opportunities they've lost. So that's going to be our first focus. Capital expenses absolutely fit in that, but I would say from a timing perspective, that's probably a 2-year out conversation that we'll return to when we've decided what are the other things we're doing with the ESSER funds up front, some of which will be budgetary, some of which will be enhancements to what we want to offer kids. We have a lot to think about and a lot to do with those funds, but this is absolutely the kind of thing that would fit in there, and we have every intention of adding it in when and where it's appropriate.
So we may be
Not
able to
tonight.
use ESSER funds at other campuses.
Correct.
I mean, because what you're describing sounds wonderful, and we'd like to offer it as many campuses as we can, and we may be able to with some ESSER.
And in theory, we could even do it with a project like this after the fact. We could make journal entries and do adjustments. But I just don't see us doing that this year. I think after next year, we'll have a better idea of what we intend to spend first and foremost the ESSER funds on, and then we can decide on how much of these funds we might consider for these projects. So we are considering, future energy projects. We have to continue to, one, bring down our electric bill, and two, really improve the quality of the air quality in our classrooms. That's our major focus.
I want to thank you, Mr. Thompson, for addressing the air quality issue. Certainly, we have to think beyond COVID, and we're also talking about kids that have asthma, and those cold and flu seasons that we know decimate classes and also keep our kids from learning, and so air quality is important for our kids and for the people that serve our kids, our teachers. And I really want to thank you for bringing this up at this time. It's a really important aspect, and I really appreciate, I don't know where the information came from about those 20 classrooms, but having been a teacher and having been in classrooms that were makeshift, because it happened at a time when we were growing so fast.
Right.
And we had to divide up spaces. But I think now we can be a little bit more judicious in how we divide those spaces up. They can match our programming better, and as you mentioned, technology. I think this is a wise move. that
Thank you.
At this time, that we address those issues so that we make sure we have classroom settings where kids thrive. And that means good air quality. That also means a safe environment where our electronics can be appropriately hung and mounted and,
Yep.
and plugged in, and kids aren't tripping over cords, and, because we all know what that looks like. It happened in Mesa Public Schools because we grew so fast. So I really appreciate the attention to the learning environment that you're talking about tonight.
But I
It's
think we
important.
definitely don't want students to have to listen to 2 teachers at one
Oh,
time.
no.
That's not beneficial. And I've been in the classrooms, and it's you can clearly hear the person on the other side of these walls. That some of this doesn't go to the deck or the bottom of the roof, and so the sound just travels right over top. We're gonna address all of that so that this will be a lot better in a learning environment. We're done.
Hot in that classroom, so.
Thank you.
I have one question. So you mentioned it will still come out of the bond money, but when we give to one, we take from another. So what are we losing with that $4 million coming to this?
Very fair question. Nothing specifically that we've identified, because at this point we are building the plane while we fly it. I talked a little about that in the past. So the bonds don't have a specific set of programs that were associated with it when we asked the voters to support us. We are in the process of developing that, and we do believe for accountability and transparency, we need to develop that list. We've had a bit of that conversation about some of the other, like Franklin East. We had that conversation. Is this the right time, the right place, and the right school? So I'm conducting a task force on that. Dr. Malawine's working on one about the programming that might be involved in changes at our schools. So we don't have that answer today. So it's a fair question, and certainly anything we spend today means we might not have that tomorrow, but we also have ESSER dollars available to us. There are other funding mechanisms we can look at as we continue to look at the solution. This is just the opportunity that's in front of us because we're doing the work on that campus right now. We want to try to take advantage of the fact the contractors lined up and we're going to be in there tearing everything apart. That's the time to put in a new system. So that's what's driving it. But that's a very, very fair question.
And we're certainly still within the description we gave voters when they
Absolutely.
voted for our
yes,
bond.
yes.
That
This
we
is
are
absolutely in the scope in general, but we didn't get as specific as we're going to be at this campus next
this
and
many
this
million
campus
dollars.
next.
Perfect.
And people are asking, and it's a fair question. Principals are asking,
Yeah.
and the community's asking. It's a fair question. Where are we, when my school's going to get addressed? Now, every year I bring to you a list of other campus projects. You saw one. Unfortunately, 2 new board members didn't see that, so we just thought I need to share that with you. But we voted back in October or November to get ready for summer projects that were more district-wide. So we've been doing district-wide work. We'll keep doing district-wide work. But we're working on these modernization projects on these 2 high school campuses. And we're going to continue to look for opportunities to modernize schools and look to figure out. But we're going to work with these committees to figure out what's next. We don't know the answer to that question yet.
I think one of the exciting things about that are happening on these 2 campuses in particular is that we're building learning environments to help support the portrait of a graduate. That
Yes.
To support learning in the best way we know available now, and that's what we want to be focused on with our bond dollars.
I really believe the work we're doing at these 2 campuses will be transformational district-wide and will benefit all the high schools as well as other campuses, from just the changes that we've seen at Lehigh with the little work that we've done there with furniture and some changes to that environment. And you guys saw the video about those teachers just talking about how they approach their whole job differently because the environment has changed. We're hoping to do the same thing at a high school level and then replicate that out to our other high schools as we continue to move forward.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Were there any other questions or comments about this? All right, Mrs. Head, I think we're ready for a vote. Oh, it's up on some, oh, there, it came on mine now. That motion passed 5-0 with all yay votes. We are at item 6, our second hearing on A and B, which are our school calendars. Mrs. Hollins, is that you, or Dr. Forlis? Who's talking to us about these?
Mrs. Williams is kicking us off.
Ah, Mrs. Williams.
Yeah, I'm kicking off the conversation tonight. So I just wanted to clarify, it's 1 hearing, 2 votes. So, excuse me. Helen and I will give you a brief overview of what we talked about in the first hearing. We're not going to go through every slide again, but we want to just get the highlights and give you the opportunity to have some discussion with us and ask questions and then do your vote. So if you would put up the presentation for us and go to slide 1, or 2, thank you. Just want to remind you about the governing board policy around when we should adopt. We are okay for next year. This is for the 22-23 school year and the 23-24 school year, if you remember. And we have to do those by February, but we are, again, fully very early on this. So I'm going to turn it over to Helen now so she can go over the data with you and remind you of what the calendar's drafts would look like.
So as you recall, we went through a significant amount of information last time about how we build our calendars. I won't go through that again. I did want to point out some of the considerations that were new to these calendars so that our public had the opportunity to hear that again. In particular, the fact that the district leadership is recommending the addition of 2 professional learning days for staff, one to follow October break and one to follow, fall break, and one to follow winter break. And that these professional learning days would include both certificated and classified staff, and they would be non-school days for our students. So those are built into the 2 calendars that we are recommending this evening. The 2 calendars that we are recommending are built on a model which we currently are using We'll refer to it as the 1-3-1 model, meaning 1 week for fall break, 3 days at Thanksgiving, and 1 week for spring break. We've currently got 3 calendars in that model. These would be 2 additional calendars, so it would be a 5-year cycle in the same type of model. We did go out and survey our community to understand their desires about break length in particular, fall break, Thanksgiving break, and spring break. And the summary data for that is that the community affirmed that they continue to prefer those 3 break lengths as the calendar built. So we have the 22-23 proposed student calendar. I will remind everybody that these set the calendar days for our students to attend school. We will go back in the near future and build in half days for professional learning communities, grading days. That all gets built into the calendar once you have approved the student learning days. So there is the 22-23 proposed calendar, followed by the 23-24 proposed calendar. The only other thing I'd like to point out and remind everybody of is that in each of these calendars, there is 1 additional day during winter break. One of the calendars that day happens on the Friday before the 2-week break, and that was done due to the proximity of the Christmas holiday to the beginning of break. And on the other calendar, it actually occurs on the Monday following the New Year's holiday, which falls on a Sunday. So the federal holiday, the legal holiday, is that Monday, and we have honored that. So at that, if you don't have any other questions, as Mrs. Williams said, this is a 2-vote process to approve each calendar individually.
Just what concerns were raised by parents and teachers? We know why you're recommending it, but what are concerns that people raised about these calendars?
So it's interesting, as I go through the data, I will say that as I looked for specific data for professional learning days, because that was new and different, the balance of responses and free response in that was kind of 50-50. But as you broke that down further, I will say that our staff had a higher rating of wanting the professional learning days, and our families did have concerns about the additional child care needed because of the professional learning days. And that's an anecdotal summary of having read as many comments as I could find that reference those. One of the other concerns that came out, in particular in the parent comments, doesn't really have to do with the calendar itself, as much as there were quite a few comments about providing more consistency in early release times, so that the parents don't have to remember, this is an early out, this is just an early out, this is a grading day out, this is a conference day out. And I think in the busyness of our lives, consistency is important to them. So I would say that was the number 2 most prevalent comment that I saw in the calendars. Then the third piece, and this is very consistent with everything we see going, as long as I've been involved in our calendar surveys in Mesa, is that there is a very split desire for 2 weeks, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. My goodness, we used to be in that calendar, and I loved being able to have my children during the 2 most beautiful months of the year for more than 1 week. To don't take another day away from my summer. Summer is sacred family time, and I want my summer to be as long as possible. So knowing that there are those 2 polarizing positions in our families, that is why we do look for what the overall preference is. And it did not get any closer in preference this time from previous times. It was pretty steady from what we had seen in the past. And then the last thing I'd like to comment on would be that our classified staff in particular, they tend to ask for the shorter. I know that that is a financial consideration for them, and that while any of the calendars don't change, the number of paid days that they work, it does change the breadth of days in which those days are worked. So that does become a concern and a consideration for them. So I would say those would be the key items, Dr. O'Reilly.
Are you able to address that one about the half-days and the variations on that when you fill out the calendar? Or is-
You know, we will go back and do that. We actually addressed some of that in the current year that we have. We reduced it by one. And we can certainly look and see if there is an opportunity to reduce it further. That is something that would be part of our conversations, of course, with MEA as far as grading days and what we have promised for professional learning, et cetera. But we will, as a superintendency, look at those calendars, and the area superintendents in particular weigh in heavily on what those days should look like.
I don't think there's a parent in the district who hasn't maybe gotten a phone call saying, did you know school was out? Like, because it's hard to keep track of sometimes some of those days. So that's one of the reasons I love the addition of the professional development days at the end of our breaks, is I'm hoping that we can move toward more full day breaks and less half days. So we'll see how we go with that. All right, is there any other questions or concerns before we call for a vote? All right, the first motion we need then is to approve the 22-23 school year calendar. Do I have a motion to approve that year?
I move we approve the 2022-23 school year calendar.
Thank you, Mrs. Hutchinson. Do I have a second?
I'll second that calendar.
Thank you, Mrs. Sears. All right, Mrs. Head will call for our vote. And it passed 5-0. Thank you so much. And now we'll move to item B, which is the approval of the 2023-24 school year calendar. Do I have a motion for that calendar?
Madam President, I'll make a motion to approve the 2023-24 school year calendar.
Thank you, Mrs. Sears. Do I have a second?
I second.
Thank you, Mrs. Ellingson. Our vote? And again, approved 5-0. So our calendar, families can make their plans, and staff on what their school years will look like for the next long while. All right, thank you. We are down to our discussion items, where we're going to have several conversations coming up. The first would be a review of our public health metrics. And Mrs. Williams, is this you?
This is me.
All right.
As we shared with you in the fall, we would commit to sharing with you each board meeting an update on where we stand with COVID-19 metrics in the district. And so I've been joking the past couple times that it was like Groundhog Day because the slides looked the same. They just had different numbers on them. Tonight, everything looks new. So there's lots of new stuff to share with you. So Helen, if you will go to the next one. So right before spring break, on the Wednesday before spring break, the governor issued an executive order. We weren't expecting it. Thankfully, I outlined for you here the impact on Mesa Public Schools. For other districts, I think there was a bigger impact because basically he asked that all schools provide in-person learning by yesterday. So they had some planning to do if they weren't planning to come back that fast. So for us, for Mesa Public Schools, because we've been offering in-person instruction since early fall, we will continue with obviously offering in-person and remote offerings. Those are still available. We didn't have to change that. We are still allowed within this executive order to monitor school by school, classroom by classroom. What did change was no longer can, as a district, without the authority, without asking permission from Arizona Department of Health, we cannot close a school. So if you remember, we've done Sousa, we've done Jefferson, no, not Jefferson. What was the other one we did recently? Adams, thank you, Adams. We wouldn't be able to do that now without asking permission of AZDHS and showing them the data, which I'm confident that we don't do it before it's needed anyway, so I think that if we needed to do it again, we would be approved, but it's just a step we have to take now. But we still may do classroom by classroom decisions as we've been making in the abundance of caution. We haven't had to do one of those in a couple weeks, but we're keeping an eye on that. So that's the impact on the executive, the executive order's impact on Mesa Public Schools was slight, but it's just a change in the process that we follow for closing schools. So the other thing that happened, if you remember last time, I shared with you the CDC updated, and there were 4 colors instead of 3, and we didn't know what that was going to look like then for the state thing, state information. And so what happened on the Thursday before break, we got all new charts. And the county, I think, went, uh-oh, we don't know. So there was no charts that day. The new charts for the county was last week's data. So what I'm showing you is what the new charts will look like. And they have different colors associated with them, moving from low transmission to high transmission. And what I would tell you is, I think they really just took the middle and split it. And it's a little more defined. Low transmission is very similar to where we were, but the middle was such a big span, and they split it into 2. So that's what you're seeing there. And then it gives you the guidance for what you should be doing in those circumstances, the recommended guidance. But they also have said to us, if you are already in person, and you can see that down there in the high transmission, if you're already in person and you feel like your mitigation strategies are working, keep up the good work. And so we have fallen into that category several times where we probably were, we were in high transmission, but our mitigation strategies were showing to have great effects in our schools. So our case counts were very low. So this is what it looks like for the counties. You remember that I used to show you the one that just had one recommendation. Now they go back to the 3 that they were doing in the fall. And so you can see our case rate and our positivity, and then the transmission level for Maricopa County. So it's 2 substantials and a low, which I think we anticipated that's where we would be. If our dashboard is indicating where we thought we would be, it's not surprising that the county is reflected this way. So if you show the next one. So then the county, so that last stuff was the state. This is the county data. And so they matched theirs also, and they gave some more guidance. I just included it so you could see it. It's very, very similar. They just, my assessment is they used more words to describe what it means. And so we, of course, work with the county closely and on any of these kind of decisions. And so this is all comfortable for Mesa Public Schools. So if you'll see, go to the next one for us, Helen, you'll see this is what the new dashboard looks like for Maricopa County. And so I toggled it to Mesa Public Schools as I normally do. And you can see that we've shown significant improvement over the last week that the data's going. So we are trending well in Mesa in our neighborhoods. The dashboard that I included this week is from 2 weeks ago. And the reason being is we weren't in school last week. And so you won't see an updated dashboard until we have some numbers to report, because there was no reporting last week. So this stays the same, and you can see Helen made that note on the dashboard so that the folks would know that this would stay the way it is. So this is not an updated, it hasn't been updated since the 4th. Next. I don't want to end one of these presentations without sharing the importance of the mitigation strategies. And I tell you where we see we're doing really well with the masks, keeping our distances as we can, washing our hands. The teachers have that down. Where we need help is continued in the home, the daily health assessments, and making decisions about keeping your students home. That's where the bang for the buck is. If students don't even walk into the building when they're feeling bad, we're way ahead of the battle. And so parents, I know it's hard to keep students home for what you think is the allergies, because right now it's allergies probably. But out of abundance of caution, that testing site at Mesa High School, take your children down there if they have the sniffles, take them down there, you'll have the results the next day. And then you can make a better informed decision. And then they haven't even walked in and exposed anybody else, and then we don't run the risk of having our schools closed. So I would ask continued cooperation. We're seeing great results from it. But the things that we control are the things when they're with us. What we really need help with is that daily health assessment at home and making the decision to keep them home when you can. So, questions for me on the presentation?
I've had a couple parents ask if their kids are in the virtual model, but because the governor said, or the executive order to have in-person options, is there any chance of them coming back in person?
So if there's room in their school, that's the answer that we've been giving all along. So because we gave the option already, we've fulfilled the governor's ask. So we've had that option all along. And our principals are working with families. If there's space available in the in-person situation, they can. But because we staffed that way, it's really hard to move, especially right now. It's really hard to make those moves. So I would tell folks, give their principal a call, and if they can, they will, but they're probably going to get a wait list right now.
I would also add, we did contact the governor's office to clarify, and the executive order wasn't intended to address that level of local decision-making.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Williams. I know that I was out this morning on my walk, and one of my neighbors said, "Oh, I gotta run, take her to get a rapid test because she has kind of a scratchy throat and I don't want to send her to school." Until I was like, so proud of my neighborhood. Yeah, I thought that is a good mom who's she's pretty sure it's not COVID, but we're not going to send our kids to school, and it's tempting but we are still wanting to be careful. We still have students and teachers and people who we want to protect and have a safe environment. So we appreciate families being extra safe.
I do think that families have this idea that it's going to be 3 or 4 days for the results to come back because at the peak of the pandemic, that's what was happening. But because we are where we are right now, they come back very quickly. And as I said, that Mesa High side has always said that they would be back very quickly, and they're living up to that agreement.
Thank you. All right. The next item is item 7B, which is an update on our meet and confer. Dr. Forlis, do you want to hand that off to someone, or that's a new part on our agenda?
Madam President, members of the board, Dr. Driscoll leads our meet and confer team and is going to provide an update to you this evening on where we are in that process and what you can be looking forward to. So Dr. Driscoll, it's all you.
Thank you. I crack up because I was like, all right, I'm in between public health metrics and move on Mesa. So I have to be brief and hopefully exciting. So our meet and confer update. Next slide. So our meet and confer process is basically, I shouldn't say basically, is driven by policy HG. And so in policy HG, it outlines for us as a organization, the organizations, associations that we deal with. And so for us, we have 4 organizations, and I know what you're going to look up. You're going to say, you say 4, but there's 3 on this screen. Mesa, our Administrators Association, we kind of do something different. We meet with them every month on a monthly basis and get issues, basically, I say real time. And then later this month, we start our official meet and confer, because we literally meet with them so regularly that we get a lot of their issues. And then later this month, we actually, any pressing issues that we have still remaining, we talk about in a formalized manner. I wanted to give a shout out to our 4 association presidents, Brian Minarsik for Mesa, Josh Buckley for MEA, and he texted me and said he's sorry he's not here tonight, because I joked with him yesterday because we had a meet and confer session for MEA that I'm just going to turn it over to him to talk. And so, yeah, he texted me and said he's not showing up. Frank Hunter, MESPA, and then Lori Skinner for Max. And so our process runs really smoothly because our association presidents do a great job of making sure that we stay true to ourselves in our interest-based bargaining strategy. Next slide. So working conditions. So each of our associations, each of our 4 associations has a working conditions document. It is available on our website, on Human Resources website. You can go and peruse it at any time. And basically, it outlines budget-related issues and environment-related issues. And so most of our conversations in the meet and confer sessions are either dealing with a budget-related item such as compensation or an environment-related item such as class sizes or duty-free lunches. And so a lot of times it depends on the season what we're dealing with. So when we came this year, the biggest topic was FFCRA. And the pandemic working conditions for a lot of our groups. So it is a very ebb and flow type process, but at the end of the day, I think we come with some great recommendations to the board. Last year, it was May 26th, if you look at your board agenda, is where a lot of those recommendations came. And so we give to the board pressing issues. And a lot of you board members get info from teachers and administrators and classified staff, and all those issues normally get brought up in our meet and confer session. So next slide. So topics for this year. With MEA, we started meeting in November. And part of the reason why we started meeting in November is last year I was a part of the meet and confer team. And per the policy, it says, I want to say the date's February 15th is the date that we should tentatively start. And by April 1st, unless the parties agree to extending, we should close. So when you start at February 15th, you have such a compression of trying to get all the items in before the end of the school year. So I came up with the wise idea of talking with Mr. Buckley, saying, hey, can we start the process earlier so we don't have that crunch of time? And that's actually worked to our benefit. And I shared that with MESPA, Max, and Mesa as well. Is this something that I think going forward, it might be something to consider, because then you have more time to really discuss pertinent issues to the associations. So in this, what you can see is one of the big topics for all groups that we all have in common is compensation. So all our associations, the first thing they want to talk about is how are our employees in their groups being compensated. Last year, the governing board did a masterful job of giving a lot of compensation in our classified staff, and also finishing out the 20 by 20 initiative from the governor and giving 5% raises for all for our teachers groups. But compensation is always an issue, and so one of the big things they want to know this year is the governing board and superintendency thinking about compensating employees? So I always tell them, yes, Dr. Forlis is saying first priority is that all employees, we look at giving additional raises or stipends or a combination of both. I don't know the number, because that's why we have Mr. Thompson and the governing board decide the final numbers and stuff like that, but that is at front of mind. So I would tell you in the near future, that's what they want to see, is the conversation about the budget and if they're going to get raises. Other districts have done stuff. I would tell you it all varies from district to district, and a lot of times what I found from talking to my colleagues in other districts, some of them using carry forward funds to give additional raises to their employees. The next big thing was the FFCRA extension, which the governing board approved. That was a huge I don't want to say burden, but a huge concern for all our association groups and their members, because when that expired in December 31st, they were worried about that. They were worried that they would have employees come to work not because they should be at work, but because they feared of losing that compensation. And so having that FFCRA extension helped calm that fear, because now employees know if I am sick, I should stay home. And then many employees, when it expired, were like, I'm sick, but I can't afford to stay home because I need that compensation. And so that was a huge relief when we passed that, when you guys have passed that extension. And then the working environment. So for a lot of our groups, the working environment is, from a teacher standpoint, is what about duty-free lunches? So in our working condition, one of our articles talks about duty-free lunches. So can we talk about that? For our MESPA group, it could be more of in terms of the communication. So I put in there for MESPA email communications. In our working conditions, it talks about how MESPA can communicate with classified employees. And so one of the things they're wanting to talk about is, can we send out email communications to all classified employees? And per our working conditions now, they can't. And so that's one of the topics that they want to address, is being able to send out to every classified employee without having that stipulation, because in our current working conditions, not every employee is a MESPA member. and not every employee is a MEA member. And so that is kind of what they want to do, is be able to have the ability to send out to all their employees. Max, our classified association, we're conducting a compensation study. And so for our MESPA group, we did, I want to say 2 years ago or 3 years ago, we did a whole compensation study, and we moved from ranges to bands. Well, with the Max group, we really never looked at their salaries and looked at the differences between the classified employees they're supervising and theirs. And so last year, Dr. Lesser, in his role, he commissioned us to do a compensation study for our supervisors to see, are we out of whack? And so that is ongoing right now. We have 85 Max members, and 73 of the 85 members are being interviewed as of this week to finish. And so we will have some recommendations from that compensation study to share with you. We learned from our MESPA compensation study where some of the employees said they wish they would have got interviewed about their job to be able to have that ability to say, hey, this is what I truly do in my job. And so with the Max group, we actually did that. And so that's why it's taken a little longer, because we interviewed, and kind of the rationale behind that is the company that we use, they will look at the job description and they will interview no more than 3. And so with 85, 73 of our supervisors are being interviewed because, and I want to say transportation, food, and nut, they have certain people that have the same job title and they only do more than 3. So that's why not all 85, because if they have more than 3 in the same job type, they only did 3. So that I want to say Friday, they will be done with the interviews this Friday. And so if not at our next meeting, probably that first meeting in April, we'll have some information to share with you about what that compensation study is, what is the recommendation that the group is making. And one of the things we try to share with the Max group is, just like we did with Mesa, if the compensation study comes back and your position says we should be paying you less money, we wouldn't do that. But when you leave that position, we would start at that salary with the recommendation if that's the case. The big thing for MEA literally was the FFCRA and then the teacher allocations and worrying about how we're going to allocate teacher assignments based on projections this year. So one of the big things that Mesa Public Schools that's unique to us for being so big is we have huge turnover. I looked at the numbers from last year. So from January 2020 to June 2020, we had 1,540 resignations or retirements for all our employee groups. So when you look at that number, you say, that is 1,500, that's a lot of employees. This year to date, and we're not to June, but we're at 492. So one of the things we see is we know we're going to have a lot of turnover. Just that's our normal do business as being Mesa Public Schools. We have a lot. It's 280 certificate employees at this time of that 492 of retired or resigned for going into the next school year. So one of the reasons why we're able to do that is last year we staffed really great. I mean, we had really low class size, and that's one of the big things in the working conditions is class sizes. This year with our projections and our numbers, even with our reduction of staffing just due to attrition, retirements, and resignation, our class sizes are still in the governing board approved ranges. So 26-1, K through 3, 30-1, 4 through 12. And I would tell you in most of those grade level spans, they're not at the 26-1 ratio or the 30-1 ratio. They're even under that. So we've been able to honor that part of the override of making sure we compensate teachers in the lower class sizes. We're able to still do that, but deal with that due to our attrition. So those are some of the hot topics that we've discussed as of this point. We meet, MESPA meets normally the Tuesday after our board meeting. This week we met today because this board meeting got switched, and so we met today. And then MEA we meet the Monday before board meetings, so we get that fresh off the presses there. And then Max we meet on Thursdays. We meet once a month. There's a lot fewer employees, and really the big thing that they want is the compensation study. So that's been taken out. And then Mesa, as I said, we meet monthly, and we have their formal meet and confer later this month. So with that, I know we probably had some questions, so I'll turn it over to questions that you guys might have for me. And I'm sorry, this mask keeps slipping down as I talk, so I keep pulling it up.
Dr. Driscoll, when I look at the meet and confer teams, we've got a number of principals on the MEA team. Is that because Mesa doesn't have, it's not a bargaining unit?
No. So with the MEA, they help the district side. And so because we have, if you look, we have elementary, a junior high, and a high
Right,
school.
right.
They're on there to talk about, so when the teacher says, hey, how is this prevalent to the high school? They give us that,
Right.
like, from their perspective. So they actually help in the conversation. It's not because of Massa. Massa actually does have a group. It's because they help in the conversation, because if it's just me sitting in there, I don't know what's going on a high school campus per se, and so we have those representatives to help those conversations so that we can keep it going. Because a lot of it, like I said before, is working environment. So we get the perspective of the teachers, and then we get the perspective of the high school, the junior high, the elementary, to say, hey, is this something that you're seeing from your administration representative going on in the campus? And then we make adjustments and recommendations as well.
I don't remember that principals being a part of the.
They're part of the district team. Yeah.
And the other thing I noticed when we approved the personnel request, we had a lot more resignations than I normally saw. We had over 50, and usually I thought I was gonna see retirements.
Uh-huh.
I saw resignations. I'm thinking of your successor, how he's going to work on retention. Are we keeping track, or do we have data from the folks that are resigning,
Yes, so
why they're resigning?
Yes, so we constantly, as a person resigns and retired, we send out what's called an exit survey, and if they fill it out, we get real life data. So as I was prepared that you guys were going to ask me these astute questions, I had turned to our dashboard that we have, and so I could tell you that of the people who filled out the response, 10% of the people who are retiring or resigning has to do with COVID-related issues, COVID-19 related issues. 22% are retiring and not returning as an ESI. So they're retiring and they're saying, we are staying retired. I'm not coming back in ESI. I don't want to come back. I want to be retired. 8% are just promotion opportunities. So they got new jobs in other districts or in our in other areas where they might got administration and other jobs. We always have the relocation especially with our teaching staff and our classified staff. We always have a lot of turnover. Just in general, last year we had over 1,000 classified employees who retired or resigned just last year alone. So we always see a big number in that. And part of the reason that I see is health reasons, 9%, and then 14% family considerations. So when I looked at the family considerations, some of the comments that I saw in that were more COVID, wanting to be at home because they had a person compromised. Now, those numbers are going down as we've been vaccinating our community, and that is going down. That's not normally a reason I'm seeing, but I had a conversation with a person today who just had a kid and just saying, I don't know if I want to come back. I want to be a full-time mom and do that. So we're seeing our normal trend, but it's not anything out of the ordinary for us. The 492 at this point. Last year it was 1,500. So we're in March. We figure from March to June, that's another 3 months. We're probably going to get a lot more retirements or resignations. It's just the natural what we see in Mesa Public Schools. So I was worried, but we're not. And honestly, I thought the numbers were going to be worse, but I'm not seeing that. And I think part of it too is now that we have vaccinations, that has helped. We've been really creative with our remote options for teachers as well as in-person options, and so that has also helped keep a lot of our staff. But the biggest thing I will always tell you is that our compensation, but our working environments that we provide for all our employees, being competitive and making sure we're creating the best environments for them, will be the biggest thing of how we're retaining them. So.
Dr. Driscoll, I think it's also important to note that March 1st is a key date in
Yep.
right now.
Yeah, so March 1st, I crack up in our office. It is a busy time because that's when we see like a ton of the resignations and retirements because we incentivize, I don't want to say incentivize, but we give employees, they have the ability to sell back more sick days at a higher rate because of that. And so we normally, and it helps the district if you think about it. If we know early enough that they're going to retire, it lets us in the hiring season, which we're in, to hire some of the best because this is the time where a lot of people are coming out of school or relocating. So it's advantageous for us to have that information.
I really appreciate you providing that information because it always concerns me when people leave. It's like, why? And when I look, and I didn't see a trend. I didn't see a certain group of teachers or a certain group of classified. And certainly, last year, we really tried to bump up the salaries of our classified folks. And what we did as a district in assuring our classified folks they would have a job during COVID. And do you think that we are seeing, did that bump in salary and that concern for their employment, is that staving off some of the resignations?
You know, and some of the people that I talk to, yes, and I would say it's the leadership of this governing board and making decisions for really putting the employees' best interest at heart. The leadership of Dr. Forlis really putting to the forefront that we really care about the employees. That's the huge thing that I would tell you, is that working environment that people know that the people in this leadership team are caring about them is one of the things. And last year, with the increases, I mean, if you think about it, Mesa Public Schools, we gave so much more than what we even got in our budget just for that. That went a long way with our employees, and that they're always at the forefront of, in the budgeting season, looking at how can we give raises and, you know, be competitive. And so that sticks with them, you know, more than anything. Is just that they know that they have people up here on this stage that are going to bat for them and really looking out for them, and that's all they can really ask.
Dr. Driscoll, we'll talk about this probably every year when it comes to, and you kind of give us some data and saying that not many people do the exit interviews, but we know that some people do. Is there a way to compress and share the data? I think we've had one time where we kind of get some ideas, and when I say data, I'm actually not thinking data, more of the narrative, because we do know that some people give us insight of here's what's going on. I know some things are individualized cases, but I think that's helpful for us as we go forward and make decisions. And sometimes we see trends, but sometimes we don't. And you might have one person who leads us to make a decision that helps an entire group of people who are maybe in a small niche area. So I think for me, I think that having a way to see those narratives would be helpful.
I'm confident that I can get that to you guys, and so what I would share is I can probably share it in status so you can see kind of some updates of what's coming in, and maybe we do like, I'll ask you guys, what do you want, if you wanted a monthly or weekly. I think monthly would be better because then you can capture a whole month, because we have so much turnover every month that you could see it, and the exit surveys come in, you can get more. So yeah, we can definitely do that for you.
Requests, were there, since it's meet and confer, were there any district requests that the district wanted to have addressed?
In terms of district employees, so our district employees fall in one of those groups besides the members of superintendency. And so I haven't seen that yet, but I would tell you typically the next couple ones, we get to the real meat and nitty and gritty. The biggest thing I've seen from a district, I take that back, Dr. Hogan from the district has made a request to look at coaches' stipends. And because Mesa, if you look at our stipends we pay our coaches, they're less than a lot of our East Valley. So that's been one. Another district request is to look at our I always say no child left behind, that's what I did my dissertation on. But national board certified teachers and the stipend for them. That has been a request that I've seen from a district standpoint to be competitive with other districts. So those two I know from like district personnel. that I've seen in there. And then we had one from the music department, and I can't think of it off the top of my head, for meet and confer to look at something, but that we do get some, yeah. Yeah, it's like stipends. And so that's where it comes to budget, where we start seeing the budget recommendations and stuff like that, and we price it out and start rationalizing. Mr. Thompson now goes to all our meetings now. So I said, be careful what you ask for, because they love having the money guy, and it makes it easy. It makes it better for me, because I tell him, I believe, but I have to come back to you now, because, oh, he's right here. Tell us, Scott. So he was at our meeting today, and with our MESPA folks, and it was so funny, because they're like grilling him, like, hey, can you give us? I'm like, yes, Scott. Thank you. So,
Happy to do it.
Mentioned competitive, and we want Mesa's salaries to be competitive, and we've always tried to keep them at least in the top third. So do we benchmark all our groups to other districts at all?
For teachers, yes. Administrators, I would tell you, knowing just the salaries, because I try to keep abreast of the salary, we pay really competitive. Our classified last year did a lot, and I think all of our districts are in that pinch with the minimum wage, and so that's one of the things of it keeps going up, and so we kind of keep having to move that number. But yeah, we try to make sure that we are really competitive. I always say, you don't want to be the bottom, but you don't want to be you want to be close to top. I know districts, if you say, hey, this year for teachers we're going to be at 47,000 starting base salary, then other districts will raise theirs up to 48 and 49. So it's always a constant moving target, but we constantly look at the market to make sure that we are, if not the top, right close, so we can stay competitive.
Dr.
Chandler would always raise like
Yep.
$400 over what we did just to
Yes.
stay there.
And it's a running joke, so I would tell you, I shouldn't say this out there because they could be watching a board meeting, but I always tell them that we're $5,000 more than what we are. That's what we're proposing, so that they go just for fun.
One quick last question, because you brought up the turnover and stuff. I've heard teachers say, hey, we're being threatened with layoffs. Other people say we haven't gotten our contracts. Is that a legitimate fear, or
No.
what you say, it doesn't sound like it is?
No, so here's what happens. In other districts, they are having those conversations, and then it spills over to our district. And so one of the things I want to just make sure we say is, one, we're not instituting a RIF. It hasn't been a recommendation from the superintendent, which would come to you per our policy. So we haven't looked at doing that. And that's the beauty of Mesa, in the sense that we have a large turnover normally in our system. So that is not an issue that I would say they should be worried about. And then contracts, we're now about to be in the contract season. So by statute for our administrators, by April 15th, we have to notify them whether we're bringing them back. And so at the first board meeting in April, you will get a recommendation for renewals of all our administrators, which then begets starting to pull out the contract. So last year, I want to say contracts went out right at the end of April, beginning of May. We're targeted to do that same thing this year. So I think we'll be good. So yeah, I tell teachers, no, don't worry, we're not rifting. And the MEA has done a really good job of saying that as well. Yeah, we're not looking at instituting a RIF. Yeah.
I also wanted to clarify one thing that you asked about the classified, and while in general, I think that absolutely the comments that Dr. Driscoll shared are true, we are seeing some specific areas of difficulty. So I think everybody will understand this. Drive through today, and you'll see $15 an hour starting, right? Food service is really having a hard time finding staff. And what was interesting when we were doing our handout of food to the community on Monday, I sat with them afterward and talked with them, and they said part of the problem too is that the folks that come to work at our schools find out that it's really hard work. And they feel like they didn't work that hard at McDonald's or at Burger King, and maybe they'll go back there and do that for $15 an hour, where we're not even to $13 an hour starting for our jobs. So there are some pockets where we're seeing some real challenges. I want to make sure you're aware of that, because in general, I think people are very happy with what we did last year and the increases we've given, but between COVID and the discussion around $15 an hour, it's kind of created this new, it feels like they just keep moving the bar on us. And so there's some areas where we're struggling.
That's that minimum wage, I would tell you, like,
Yep.
that's going to be something that we're going to constantly have to keep looking at, because as it keeps moving, again, our bottom keeps going up, and then we keep, I don't want to use the word compression, but we keep getting closer in our bands, and so. Dustin, that's all for you.
We are thankful for the time and effort you put in and meet and confer, and that, Mr. Thompson, that you've been joining them. That's a great help, it sounds like. And always with for our people, we want them to know that not only do we value their salaries, but I love that you said it's not all about compensation, it's about working conditions, because if we are in the top third or top 25% of salary paying, we want the intangibles about working for Mesa to be the thing that brings us to the top. So we want to be responsive to those things that help our staff be confident in the kinds of jobs they can have in Mesa Public Schools. And we want to be great employers. So thank you for helping us do that. Now we move to item 7C, which is the Move One Mesa campaign. And I understand maybe we're going to have Dr. Hikes and Heels. Is that your name for this?
Well, here we go. Madam President, members of the board, I have the pleasure of introducing our Director of Career Technical Education, Marlo Loria, who is going to talk to you about the Move One Mesa campaign. And I'll tell you my new name and my new story later. But I will turn this over to Mrs. Loria.
All right, thank you so much. It's so fun to be here in person and see everybody's wonderful faces. You know, it's those things that you take for granted, right? It's been a year since I've been here in this room with all of you. So thank you for allowing me to be here and present on this new partnership called Move One Mesa. You know, today we had a leading learning meeting with all of the administrators, and the theme of it was about collaboration and being collaborative. And that's really a lot about my job, working with business and industry and community members to really talk about how we can collaborate to help support students, to support staff, faculty, and really bring everybody together in an innovative way. I know I've had many conversations over the last year with many of you up there about a lot that's happened this last year. You know, our current state and everything we've experienced has been pretty unprecedented. And the pandemic has really caused a lot of loss of life, jobs, education, physical and mental health has been impacted by that. And we've seen a division within our community that we've never really seen before. And so I'm not here to extend that hopelessness anymore. I'm here to say, you know, there's hope here, and we're going to be moving forward as a community. And not just as Mesa Public Schools, but as an entire community, about focusing on priorities that will move us and make us stronger and healthier community. So I have actually, to begin moving us forward, there was actually a group of community members that have gotten together to begin this healing process and ignite a culture of learning and well-being. As a result, I've met with members from the City of Mesa, the Mesa Chamber of Commerce, obviously Mesa Public Schools, and the Mesa Public Schools Foundation, and a nonprofit called Move 1 Million. And together we've created this initiative, Move One Mesa. And out of those conversations came 4 priorities to really take a look at: physical health, mental health, kindness, and community service. We're really going to focus a lot today on the physical health and the mental health. I know, you know, we've learned a lot this last year. We've learned a lot about our physical health really is important. We knew it before, but given this pandemic, it meant even more. And how do we make that as a priority as individuals, as community members, to make sure that we are doing what we can to stay healthy? And then mental health has impacted all of us. You know, my daughter, who is a freshman at one of the high schools, I saw some triggers of mental health issues in remote learning, and seeing that spiral, and that was frightening as a parent. So how can we start bringing us back together? In-person learning has been a game changer for her, and she's been able to really thrive since being in person. But mental health is also something we've all had to deal with this last year. So, Ina, why don't you go ahead and play the video?
Our community has been incredibly divided and with a lot of different feelings and opinions about what schooling should look like during a pandemic. And I think that Move One Mesa is an opportunity to build unison and bring our community together to move forward.
So Move One Mesa is really unifying all of us together to move forward towards these community priorities, such as physical health, mental health, kindness, and community service. And this includes community members from the City of Mesa, Mesa Public Schools Foundation, and the Chamber of Commerce, in addition to a great collaboration with Chris Powell and his Move 1 Million initiative.
Move 1 Million is a service project that I started to help millions of people take the very first step in their journey toward a better life, and also to help bring us all together, especially in these crazy times. And as the whole thing started to come to fruition, as I made connections with people in my city, they understood the movement, they understood the mission, and everybody rallied. They gave Move 1 Million the starting point to launch right here in the city in the form of Move One Mesa. And I couldn't think of a better place to begin this movement that's eventually going to change the world, but right here in my city. And so now, with Move 1 Million, we can provide a service to move the entire city of Mesa, from the schools to the general public to the hospitals to assisted living. We're going to get everybody moving. We're going to get everybody coming together as one.
Something like this is critically important to come in and address that very real and very serious need that we have in our community, to do some things to address our emotional and our spiritual health in response to this horrible challenge that we've all had.
Part of mental health is not just inside of your head, it's your actual physical body. So movement is so important. Making sure that you get enough sleep, making sure you eat right, and taking care of yourself. So working those good endorphins, and that's what exercise does. So this movement is very important.
I've started an initiative called #MesaKindness, and I'm trying to create a culture of kindness in our community. And so this works perfectly with Move One Mesa. As we move forward as one, kindness is really going to help us be unified in that. And also, I love the one, meaning one person at a time and one act at a time. Really, truly, one small thing every day could make such a big difference. If everyone in our entire city, everyone in our schools was doing something to show kindness to each other.
The Mesa Public Schools Foundation is a nonprofit that really brings the community and the school district together.
It is really good for people to give a little bit beyond, because it just strengthens the schools and it strengthens students and teachers.
I know without a shadow of a doubt, 82 schools, 64,000 kids, we're going to change a lot of lives for the better.
Awesome. I'd like to introduce Chris Powell. Come on up, Chris. As discussed in the video, we have this partnership with Chris Powell and his nonprofit Move 1 Million, which is really the foundation. It was really the springboard into this Move 1 Mesa initiative, both symbolically and physically, right? This idea of not just moving physically, but symbolically, of how do we get to that next phase of post-pandemic. Chris is a world-renowned health and wellness expert, New York Times bestseller, was the host of ABC's Extreme Weight Loss show, and holds a degree from ASU, from exercise science, and he's the CEO of a company called Transform. I think Kiana's a fan. He's taken his knowledge and expertise and created this nonprofit, Move 1 Million. So a lot of those movements that you saw that everybody was doing synchronously is actually part of this Move 1 Million project. So before Chris speaks and really talks to you about Move 1 Million, let's go ahead and take 2.5 minutes to watch the movements in their entirety. And you're welcome to stand up and do them too if you would like. Ina, go ahead and show the next video.
Thank you. Wow, that was so cool. Thank you so much for participating.
We're gonna need that about halfway through every board meeting.
So let me just, I'm going to give you guys just a little bit of background here because, by the way, that was so unexpected and so amazing. Thank you guys for participating in that. So what you just did, 2 minutes and 23 seconds, you took your body through its full range of motion. You increased oxygenation to your brain, your muscles, your organs, but something magic happened beyond that. Us moving together in unison, it creates that sense of camaraderie, that bond between us. So it goes beyond just the physical aspect of it. It's actually something that we call muscular bonding. It's been used for hundreds of years throughout history. We see it in dance, in marching with soldiers, in lockstep, etc. And it's used to bring people together. So I'm going to give you the background behind all of this. A year ago, obviously as COVID started to hit, sorry about that, we started to see everything shutting down. And just as far as the ramifications, I found myself just doing a lot of reflection of what I could possibly do to help, especially considering the platform that I've been completely blessed with having, this reach, of course, had the television show and transforming people around the world. It's been absolutely amazing, but at the same time, I found myself thinking, what could I do to help? And while a lot of people, they can leverage that platform for money, I genuinely believe that I can find so much more happiness in service. And so I found myself climbing the buttes around here every night, and I go up to the top, and I always think, as I'm looking out over the lights, I'm like, what can I do to help all of these people? And what does the world need right now? Because there's so many people struggling. We see, especially since COVID, the numbers of anxiety, depression, loneliness, suicide, they're through the roof. And on top of that, in my passion, I help people who are struggling with their weight. And so, and since the pandemic, we've again seen those numbers skyrocket. So what could we possibly do to help those people? And I found myself climbing these buttes literally every night. I story about them all the time on my social media. And I got down to the bottom of the mountain, and I went back home, turned on the television, and I started watching a documentary on Japan. And I'm 5 minutes in, and they say every morning in Japan, at 6:30 in the morning, the radio starts, and they start playing what's called Ragio Taiso. It's radio calisthenics. Just basic body weight exercises that everybody does. It started in 1928, and Emperor Hirohito, he had a massive problem that he was dealing with, and those problems, there was two things. His country was divided. He couldn't get the different villages that had grown into towns, he couldn't get them to get along, and the average life expectancy was 40 to 45 years old. He needed them to live longer. And so he looked around at what these other countries were doing, and he said, okay, he brought the radio in from the United States, and he created 3.5 minutes of movement, 13 movements, memorized, choreographed, that takes the human body through its full range of motion. He mandated that in schools, in corporations, construction workers. He mandated it across the entire country. By 1955, this is 1928, by 1955, Japan was one of the top 3 healthiest countries in the world. They've held that spot for 6 decades straight. He needed one generation to ingrain it into the culture, and it changed them. And today, you watch any documentary on Japan. If you go to Japan, I've been there twice. Every single day, 27 million Japanese, they do Ragio Taiso every single day. 92 years later, they changed their culture. And not only did he make them healthier, he brought them together as a country. In fact, he ended up building his army off of that. So, for example, in 1945, when the United States came in, we banned Ragio Taiso because it was so powerful in bringing people together. And you look at the problems that we have right now. We're more divided than ever, clearly more sedentary than ever. We're more isolated than ever. We need to do 3 main things. We need to move. We need to bring all of us together, and we need to find some sort of happiness to battle the loneliness and the anxiety and the depression. So as I was watching this, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is it. Like there's a solution that's right here in front of us, and if anybody could do it, not to say that I'm the guy, but I could do this, right? And I say, I've got a platform. I can rally people. I have an education behind this, exercise science, physiology. I know how to move the body. I can create something new, because, what was created in Japan, it's 1928. The piano music is classical piano, and it was like ding, 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 and it wouldn't hit today. We need something to speak to the next generations, like something that's going to be amazing, and also something that I believe could be even more powerful, and we can move the masses and ingrain this storytelling, choreography, and ultimately a movement into their lives. So I sat down and I created the 13 movements of Move 1 Million to pay also respect to the origins of it and the inspiration, which is Raggio Taiso, 13 movements. Theirs is 3.5 minutes, mine's 2.5. Because in our day and age, we need something fast, right? It's convenience, we're on our cell phones, and so guess what we did? They had radio. That was the means that they could reach the masses, was through radio. We could do that now with technology galore. So we ended up starting 7 months ago. I bankrolled the whole thing. I said, this is my service project. I'm going to dive full in. Created a full app. We created a full website. Ultimately, we created technology so we can reach people on any platform, social media, public broadcasts, etc. We have, again, it's a free download app that's going to have a broadcast that plays at the top of every hour. 7 days a week, 365 days a year. But then we started creating these broadcasts, and I started talking to other people in the city, started speaking with Mayor Giles, was introduced to Dr. Forlis, who, when I explained it to her, she said, this is amazing. It'd be so awesome to bring this into our schools to get our kids to move. And not for a multitude of reasons, but also essentially what we're looking to do is give them something that's standardized, something that they can memorize, because what they did in Japan, the beauty of the whole process of Raggio and how they changed a culture is because it was the same thing over and over and over again. Just like they memorized the Pledge of Allegiance, they can memorize these movements, and we can give our kids the gift of knowing how to move their body for the rest of their lives. They'll always have that first step with them. They'll always have it in their back pocket. The moment they hear this music, they can move to it. And the music is powerful because the music and the choreography, it tells the story of the hero. You guys, that movement where you all of a sudden, you pull it open, you see the hero within, and you get down into it, you find strength in the struggle, and there's a victory at the end. I think as far as the storytelling goes and actually moving the body through it, it's wildly powerful psychologically for the kids. So we created the whole Move 1 Million routine. I hated piano lessons as a kid, but now I love them. So I wrote the music and I play the music. So what you actually heard, that was me on the piano playing it. So I created the whole thing as a gift to the world. And so we are a nonprofit. We're 100% free service that we're going to give to everybody. And then from here, not only do we want to we're not going to stop at the movement, the 2.5 minutes of movement, but speaking with Marlo and Dr. Forlis, they said something that these kids really need is mindfulness. It's huge these days for a lot of really good reasons. So we finished the broadcast with 1 minute of mindfulness, where we focus on our breathing. We just bring them back to here and now. We take any negative emotions that we're feeling, we let them all go. Then we finish it off with positive affirmations, letting them know that they're powerful, that they can do anything that they set their mind and their body to. And then at the very end, I tell them that we believe in them. They can do anything, and they can go create an incredible day for themselves, and we'll see them again tomorrow. So again, we're hitting them physical health, mental health, social health. It takes 4 minutes. And then it's going to be a brand new broadcast every single day to keep it fresh for the kids. We're going to be bringing in, their favorite TikTok stars, YouTube stars, etc. So I've got some amazing connections in Hollywood. They're really excited about being guests as a part of the broadcast, so we can keep it fresh and exciting for them. So, and then as far as our technology goes, it's a one-touch registration, 100% free. So any school that wants to be a part, one-touch register. Tell us when you want the broadcast emailed to you. It'll hit any school, anywhere. You can grab that broadcast, you play it, everyone can move together and feel good. So that's Move 1 Million in a nutshell. I wanted to share that with you guys because I just genuinely believe that if we, by implementing this into the schools, and of course not just stopping at the schools, but we're bringing it to Dignity Health hospitals. It's going to be part of the public broadcast. I was working with the mayor, so it's going to be Channel 11. They're going to be airing it every single day. We have a free download app for everybody, corporations. We're going to do exactly what they did in Japan, but we're going to take it to a whole nother level. And I think that if we do our job right, it's going to last a lot longer than I ever will. And I certainly hope it changes generations to come. So can't think of a better place to start it than right here in my own home city, where my kids are going to Harris with Mr. Oliver right now. And so it's for me, it's an honor to have this opportunity to serve my city and obviously create a launch pad for Move 1 Million around the world, but right here in Mesa. So thank you. Oh, I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Did you guys have any questions? Any questions at all?
I have a question. I'm just curious to know, because just like it kind of rejuvenated us as we stood up and did it in the middle of our meetings. I mean, is your vision that they'll do this at the beginning of the day? Because I'm thinking maybe teachers, when they see, hey, our kids need a reset, we do it again. You know what I mean? Or that kind of thing. How will that work? And what's your vision for it in our classrooms?
Ms. Lauria, do you want to share what you shared with our administrators this morning so we have all the same information? You guys can tag team it up there.
Yeah, so if you want to do the next slide, our official launch will be March 29th, and we got this all in front of the principals today. I will be sending out registration information as soon as it's available, where the school or the teachers can be able to register for the new videos. And we're really encouraging to make it part of their daily routine, doing the Pledge of Allegiance, 2.5 minutes of movement, 1 minute of mindfulness. Kids are focused, they're energized, blood is flowing, and then continue on with the day. We met with all of the PE teachers, and they were super excited. So I believe a lot of our PE teachers have already started doing the Move 1 Million movements with students. So I believe, what I've learned with Mesa and with our wonderful principals is that it becomes very organic. So when a few start, they hear about it, and then others will start, and others will start. Chris has a wonderful social media presence, so that will be all over his social media, our social media. So there's going to be a lot of buzz coming out about this within the next couple weeks, where I just think the teachers will just innately want to do it and embed it in their classrooms. I've also created a website called Move 1 Mesa. So right now, as they're finalizing the daily broadcasts, the videos are available on that M1M tab. The video that we just went through, and then also a tutorial of the movements with a little bit more direction from Chris. There's also some other resources about those other community priorities. I will tell you, as part of community collaboration, I'm still waiting on some collaborators to help me finish it out. So if you go on there and you're like, why is this still under construction? We're working on it. But by March 29th, everything will be ready to go. But on M1M, that has the videos so that people can start practicing and using them right now. And then really it's just about being together and being a community contributor. One of our Portrait of a Graduate essential skills, and that, I believe if we focus on all of these things, we will move towards a better Mesa. It's like he said, it's that phoenix rising, coming out of the ashes, and that we've learned from this last year, and that we are a better and stronger community because we'll do this and move together. So I don't know if you have any other questions for Chris or I.
Jenny, to go back to what you were asking, the teachers, it's their discretion. Again, this is our gift to you. So the movements, the music, everything, it is yours. And so they can use it however they choose. If they want to get the kids up, they want to get them moving every hour on the hour, just like the broadcast, like that people are going to be receiving in the app, they can do that. Anytime that they start to get a lull in the class and they're like, hey, let's everyone stand up, let's go. There's a free music download on it, so they can have the music if they want to lead the class through it. If they want the broadcast so that the kids can move along with their favorite TikTok star of the day, they can do that as well. But nevertheless, it's a gift to you, free.
Thank you so much. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, with these masks, you can't see us smiling.
Right?
I love this idea, and I taught kindergarten and first grade, so I could see myself as a teacher with the younger children using this a lot. This is a great transition to the next activity.
We only had head, shoulders, knees, and toes.
Right?
So now we have a hero journey. It's way different.
And I see this as a great opportunity for the kids to lead out as they learn the movements. They can take turns leading their classmates in this, and it's a great opportunity to be a leader, too.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And in fact, just going off of that, we also, it's funny because Rachel, who's my head of operations, she was a teacher as well, and she's like, there's so much history behind this as well. There's full lessons plans that you could really kind of learn about it, just not just from the history of Raju, et cetera, but also like teaching the hero's journey, also exploring the physicality of it all, exploring the full range of motion of the human body and the positive benefits. So we can have fun with this in multiple realms. And so, I'm just beyond thrilled that it's been received the way that it has been. And again, whatever I can do to serve you guys, I'm happy to.
A huge thank you. Marlo's probably the only one who saw that I'm a huge fan. It's actually been over 12 years. I think I was in Fitness Works down the way, and this gentleman he was working with had lost over 100 pounds, and I was like, "Can you help me? Can you help me?" And he's like, "You're not over 100 pounds overweight at the time." So I was like, "Oh, okay." I don't know if that was a goal, but I was like, "Dude, this guy's awesome." Then went on to see you on television, had that wonderful career. Fans stalked him. His sister's at HU, so again, Sun Devil, as you guys know, and just kind of been following this journey. And I'm so happy that you're here now and you're offering this to us and to the world. This is very, very exciting, and thank you so much. I can't say enough how life goes full circle.
Yes.
And here you are back in Mesa. You went to Hollywood, now you saw this is the best place in the world to be. So thank you for being here, and thank you for this service to our children, especially in this critical, pivotal moment. And I see it as a service for our future leaders with the hero's journey and Understand the Warrior, and have done many leadership exercises going through all of that. But most of all, I believe the adults in this room and the ones who will actually be the administrator of it will receive tremendous benefits. So thank you so much. Appreciate you. And I'm glad you decided to trust your children to us as well. So we look for future generations. Thank you so much for being here today and bringing this to us and our city.
Thank you, Kiana. And good to see you again after all these years. And no, I really appreciate it. And Hollywood is great, but this is definitely where I belong. And I'm excited to take this. I'm going to take this to the rest of the world, but I can't think of a better place to start than right here. And you got to take care of your own backyard first, and then we're going to grow from here. But thank you all again so much for all the support. And I promise we are going to do a world of good starting right here. So thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Marlo, you may need to take him. It may take his charisma and leadership to get some of our high school students moving.
Oh, I already have Chris Gilmer from Westwood that's booked him next week to come and do it with his staff and some of his students. And so, like I said, it grows organically, and they're already calling like, "Hey, can he come out to our campus here? We're going to be at Stevenson on the 29th. We'll have Channel 3 there to do an official launch, and he'll be there with the students there going through the motions as well. So we're super excited.
I have a senior at Westwood. Get him.
All right.
If you get him up there dancing and moving, then you have been successful. So.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We appreciate you. And thank your
you,
staff
Marlo.
for coming as well. Thank you. Thank you for sitting through our meetings. It made it way more exciting. We're going to play ours at the beginning of the 8 o'clock hour every time. Is that the broadcast time? All right, there we go.
There we go.
Add it in. Will be live streamed. That will be. I think our viewership will go through the roof.
Absolutely.
Dr. Forlis, the superintendent update is yours.
Well, thank you very much, Madam President, members of the board. I do have to tell you a little small story. In order to sign our releases to Hike the Mountain and to be a part of the video, which was filmed in conjunction with our EdTV crew and our students from video production in CTE, which was quite amazing watching kids fly a drone and so on. But I had to sign my waiver to participate in the video and the hike. And so I've never had a waiver that there was a line for my stage name. So I looked around and kind of wondered, what is my stage name? Thought, so Marlo, what's my stage name? And she just kind of looked at me. And Chris's assistant, Rachel, comes up and she says, it's Hikes in Heels, because I was the one who hiked the mountain in my heels. So there you go. That is why I am now known as Dr. Hikes in Heels. So
Maybe,
All right.
maybe we can get you a pair of tennis shoes for the next
How
time.
do you like that? All right, are we ready? Here we go with the superintendent update, which I am so proud to be able to share with you this evening. We have a lot to celebrate in Mesa Public Schools. We're going to start off, as we always do, focusing on our promise, knowing that we are committed to knowing our students by name, serving them by strength and need, so that they graduate ready for college, career, and community. We had an opportunity to conduct listening sessions in town hall with our students prior to spring break. We listened to 6th graders, 7th and 8th graders, and 9th through 12th graders at our comprehensive high schools and our success schools. And so when I think about knowing our students by name and serving them by strength and need, what is it that they need? And it was a resounding conversation among all of the children, young adults, that what they need are relationships and collaboration. They want to know one another. They want to know their teachers. They want their teachers to know them. And they also wanted us to know the power of teachers, that teachers are who they look to connect with and to feel some sense of normalcy during this very unusual year. They also want collaboration. They want to be able to share their ideas, and boy, do they have great ideas. So when they were on camera, in our WebEx meeting, some of them didn't have a lot of detail, but I invited them to share back with me. And I've got plenty of emails talking about homework, talking to me about can I teach their principals how to do town hall listening sessions. So I've had great communication with these young folks. So I want to tell you that our Mesa Public School promise is alive and well, and we are certainly listening to the needs of our students. As we move on, I'd like to take a minute to celebrate the great work of the partnership of Mesa Public Schools and the City of Mesa. On February 26th, we delighted students at Lincoln Elementary when we distributed laptops purchased with our Mesa Cares funding from the City of Mesa. You will see pictured here Mayor Giles, Council Member David Luna, Chief Technology Officer for Mesa Public Schools, David Sanders, and our board president, Mrs. Jenny Richardson, were on hand to help students set up their devices. Spirits were high, and students were so excited to get these new laptops. As you know, the laptop deliveries were delayed due to the pandemic, but they are definitely on track to be distributed. We're thrilled to be able to provide these laptops to students at Lincoln and Stevenson. Those were our first two schools. Our visual communications team made a fantastic video about the event that we would like to show with you this evening. So Ina, please show our premiere video. We are so excited to be at Lincoln Elementary today, where over 700 laptops are being distributed to our kindergarten through 6th graders. And this is all possible because of our partnership with the City of Mesa, who dedicated $6.5 million to purchase 9,000 laptops. And so today is one of our very first events of getting these into the hands of our students at Lincoln Elementary.
The City of Mesa is just very, very grateful that we had the opportunity to share the COVID relief money that we had with the schools. Even before COVID, the school districts, you could see, were shifting to a one-to-one model, where even elementary school kids, it was critical to their learning to have a device. And that was made even more urgent because of the pandemic. So this is critically important now during COVID, but it'll remain very, very important going forward. This is the new model for learning.
Every student right now in this pandemic, obviously needed some type of electronic device, a computer, to be able to do remote learning or any type of online learning. Without the City of Mesa's generosity, we wouldn't have been able to give every student a laptop. I've always had a vision to be able to provide one laptop to every student. This helped make that happen. So I'm very grateful to make my vision come true based on their generosity.
So many of our students, they don't have laptops at home, and so this might be the only device that they've had previous to this, and this might be the only device they have in their homes right now. So many of our students, without this generosity, without the support of Mesa Public Schools and the City of Mesa, that they would not have this access. And so to be able to bridge that gap, to be able to make sure that they stay connected to their teachers, to other students, to their educational journey, it's huge. It's so important for us, and we were so appreciative of that. This refresh is going to be a game changer for us. We know that throughout this pandemic, it's been difficult for our students to always stay engaged, whether it's here at school or at home. And so to have devices that are cutting edge, great technology that keeps them engaged, keeps them logged in, keeps them connected to each other and to their teachers, it's going to be so exciting to see how that makes an impact on the learning here at Lincoln Elementary.
I think these laptops will help support my work in the classroom by helping the students be more engaged in this digital world that we're in now. They'll be able to access more programs, more online resources for them. They'll be able to access books online through different programs, learn about digital citizenship and how to stay safe when using the computers. I think that the greatest benefit my kids will receive thanks to these laptops is the accessibility. They'll be able to become more independent and take those steps into being able to access different resources to help them in their education. This opens up so many doors to our students, and it becomes a huge learning tool within the classroom for every teacher now that students are going to be more one-on-one with technology.
These students are so excited. It's so fun to watch them, and as I talk to them about how they will treat these computers and how they will care for them, they have been well trained to take care of something. It's a gift. They want to treat it special. I have no doubt that these devices are safe in their hands.
Thank you for the laptop.
A huge celebration and a tremendous amount of gratitude to the City of Mesa and and all who made this possible. What a better way to celebrate National Nutrition Month than by helping our community with food security. On Monday, March 8th, that first day of spring break, it was all hands on deck at our food and nutrition warehouse as we handed out hundreds of food boxes to district families. These boxes helped feed families over our spring break. Mr. Thompson, Dr. Mallerwine, Mrs. Hollins, and I, along with principals Chris Gilmore, Greg Mendez, and Mike Oliver, joined our food and nutrition team to load boxes into cars. It was a whirlwind of activity, and our families were grateful for the opportunity to participate. This is just one shining example of how people come together to serve our community in times of need. Heidi Hurst had enrollment cards, and she was making sure she was putting those and doing advertisements for enrollment in every car that drove by as well. One of the essential attitudes in our Portrait of the Mesa Public School graduate is resilience, and we define that as being adaptable, learning from mistakes, and be willing to risk trying again. Amid the unprecedented difficulty arising from the COVID-19 pandemic, stories and acts of incredible resolve, perseverance, and resilience have taken place. The Mesa Chamber of Commerce, along with the community partners shown on this particular slide, sponsored a writing contest for our students and employees. So I'm excited to share the winners with you this evening. And here are their names. You will notice that this writing contest targeted students in grades 3 through 12, as well as an employee category. So in grades 3 through 4, our winners are Navy Halverson from Zaharis Elementary, Annalisa Torres from Highland Arts Elementary, and Chelsea Reeves from Mesa Academy for Advanced Studies. In grades 5 through 6, Landon Izignoma from Washington Elementary, Cecilia Flores from Edison Elementary, Kendall Vonberg from Mesa Academy of Advanced Studies. And in grades 7 through 8, Alexis Kelly, Mesa Academy for Advanced Studies, Brooke Balthazar from Rhodes Junior High, and Vera Milligan, also from Rhodes Junior High. And in grades 9 through 12, Dallin Bowers from Mountain View, Shelby Martison from Red Mountain High School, and Efron Trejo Pantaleon from Mesa High School. In our employee category was Elisa Fisher from Las Sendas Elementary, and Cindy Peterson from Transportation, and Gina Mizuko from Skyline High School. Sally Harrison, the president and CEO of the Mesa Chamber, and I will be distributing gift cards to all of these winners Friday morning. So it was a great opportunity, and reading through their essays, their entries, it was pretty amazing, from poetry to just true stories of resilience and the strength that our staff, as well as our students, were willing to share with us. Was pretty amazing. So Music in Our Schools Month and Youth Arts Month. It's a busy month for recognition. We're also taking a look at National Women's History Month, so this is really an action-packed month. Above, you can see a couple of examples of our award-winning music and arts opportunities for our students. We're thankful for all of our educators who have found safe solutions providing these important learning opportunities for our students, because we know how much they mean to our children and to the Mesa community. We have been talking quite a bit about enrollment, keeping our community abreast that we want to make sure that kids are enrolled for next year as well as for this year. So we have a lot going on. We're continuing our marketing campaign for fall enrollment. Our communications and engagement team has a robust plan with new projects rolling out throughout the spring, keeping our promotions fresh and engaging. So I'm going to share a few of those highlights with you of the promotions that are active right now. We've launched a 6-month bus, shelter, and campaign in our boundaries located in the city of Chandler, focusing on the schools in that area and nearby. We have 10 ads located throughout the area, located from Price to Arizona Avenue, and then from Warner up to the canal. These ads serve as mini billboards to raise awareness among residents and commuters that there are excellent Mesa Public Schools nearby. So next time you're in the area, be on the lookout. They are definitely eye-catching. We know that our Spanish-speaking community prefers video, so this month we have a 30-second commercial airing on Univision. Our Cox digital campaign launched in February continues. These ads include graphics and video. They're shown to users that fit the parent demographic. So it's pretty amazing the analytics that Cox can deliver specific marketing to specific parent demographics. Users may see the ads while searching online, using an app, or before a YouTube video or other streaming. So you might, if those pop up for you, you might see them. We have banners at all of our schools and at highly visible district locations. You will see those beautiful blue and yellow signs, including Historic Irving, our distribution center, as well as student services. And in fact, when you drive out tonight, right across over at our Synergy building, you will see the big sign. Need to give a huge shout out to Frank Hunter and his team, who have welded special brackets and have made sure that those are all well displayed. We're also producing Spanish language banners for schools depending on their percentage of families requesting Spanish to home materials. We're also working with the city on plans to display our banners in popular city parks. We continue to promote campaigns through a variety of paid social media ads, which also include English and Spanish parent testimonial videos, which are very powerful. We have reached out to our K-6 and K-8 charter schools in district boundaries to offer flyers, information about our virtual and/or in-person opportunities, and to learn more about our junior highs and our high schools. The reception has been favorable, and we look forward to continuing to build these relationships to ensure a successful transition for their students as they enter the next level of their education, hopefully in our schools. We are also planning several outreach opportunities. Yesterday, had a great meeting with the leaders at Aliento, talking about helping us to find our children that have unenrolled or are not in school right now, and we will be sharing more information as that comes to fruition. They have some models that they've worked on in Phoenix that we think that we could replicate here in Mesa. There's a lot more to come throughout the spring, so please stay tuned. We always enjoy celebrating achievements and the great things that are happening in our schools, so we have a short video to round out my superintendent update to you this evening. So please hit it, Ina. the skills within the portrait of the graduate and those essential attitudes are alive and well among our students and our staff in Mesa Public Schools. So thank you for this opportunity to provide an update.
We love hearing about how our students are performing and doing so well, and our teachers as well, so, and our staff members. So thank you for that update, and those ads look great. Tell our communications department, Mrs. Hollins, that we're impressed. Thank you so much. We have had an eventful meeting tonight, but we are just sadly at item 8, which is calling for adjournment. So do I have a motion for adjournment? I move we adjourn. Thank you, Dr. O'Reilly. And a second?
Second.
Mrs. Hutchinson's ready to go as well. Mrs. Head, we can vote for you. Yep. Can we predict the fingers? We think it might be a 5-0 vote. They make us wait in such suspense. I know, it's like, what will it say? I'm going to predict that we are 5-0 for adjournment. Is somebody not? Mrs. Ellingson wants to stay, but everyone else, it looks like the motion carries. Our meeting is adjourned 5-0. Thank you so much.